Here we were in the early stages of a pandemic, something that none of us had ever experienced in our collective lifetime. I knew we'd be back on our feet at some point, but in the interim, I still wanted to speak to audiences, but particularly to assistant principals. Knowing that my social media platform was large and was closely associated with my work, on the first Saturday in May 2020, I launched the virtual AP Leadership Academy. The intent was 18 weeks only, but as many of you know, we are years in with no ending in sight. We are now the AP and New Principals Academy, as many of the assistant principals from the original virtual AP Leadership Academy became principals. If you're new to the platform, welcome. If you're a leadership veteran, this platform continues to be relevant for veterans in principal leadership, assistant principal leadership, and aspiring school leaders. With that said, it's time for today's session. And we are live. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to week 325 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in this morning. Ooh, we got a small number of folks checking in early, man. What y'all doing? Sleep? We got Sean Hurt, Detroit, Michigan. We got the Queen Jacqueline Harriet, as we call her, in Nova Scotia, Canada. We got Otis Kitchen II in the building, Principal Otis Kitchen II. We got Alan Coart, Alan Q. Coart, checking in. We got Dr. Sheikah Houston down in South Carolina. We got Dr. Melissa Jones Tuna. We got the Queen of the Castle, Kimberly Broughton Kafele, in the building. And I might add, it's so good to be back in the castle, man. All 25 rooms, man. It's good to be here. Y'all know I'm being facetious now. Where we at? Monique Victorian is in the building. Dr. Rella Hicks, Augusta, Georgia. Muriel No Nonsense is in the building. Rodney Richardson is in the building. Man, it's a lot of folks in here who are watching, but it ain't a lot of folks in here leaving comments. So it ain't that many leave them comments, y'all. Greet me, somebody. I've been lonely all week, man. Say hello. Say good morning. I've been in 5 states, man. We got where we at? Rodney Richardson is in Hampton, Virginia. Dot McKeever Jeter is in the building. And hey, Dot, I'm glad you're recovering. I had no idea. And I guess I could say this publicly because you posted it. I had no idea you were in the hospital. No idea whatsoever. But the algorithm steered you to me when I opened up my Facebook page the other day. When I opened up the page, there was you sitting in the hospital, laying in a hospital bed, and made the comment. So speedy recovery to you. And to the fam, on behalf of the fam, prayers to you for whatever you may be in there for, a full recovery, right? As Dr. McKeever Jeter, y'all, retired superstar principal, I might add, Dr. McKeever Jeter. Where we at? Central Hicks is in the building. Something going on with YouTube. That's kind of what I was thinking. Let me see what that is, y'all. Y'all, as they say, pause. Right? Hang on a second, because I was kind of suspecting there was a YouTube issue. Let's see what's going on here. YouTube. Let's see. Y'all pause for a second. Let me see what's going on here. It says live now. No, we live now. I'm looking at myself, looking at my phone. So whatever was happening with YouTube, I guess it's all right. Let me see if I got volume. Yeah, hear me. All right, so YouTube should be back up and running. So those of you that prefer YouTube, go on over there. I don't know what that was, but I kind of suspected something wasn't right when I didn't see names, right? So here we go. I'm getting ready to shut it down in a minute, y'all. Let me get in here. Patrick Lawrence, I see you. Connecticut. September, Devon Vance Daniels is here in Jersey. Chris Smith, I see you. Newport News, Virginia. Rasan Matthews, Athens, Georgia. Nina Chapman, I see you. Patrick Lawrence, I think I said, but I see you again. Oh, YouTube's not allowing comments. All right. Wow. Oh, I don't know what that is. They probably having some kind of glitch. So y'all, if those of you that want to comment, just come on over to either X. No, I would prefer Facebook, not X. Right? Come on over to Facebook. But if you got to go to X or LinkedIn, but I prefer Facebook. Come on over to Facebook at Principal Kafele, not AP New Principals Academy. That is just for that link that I'm gonna be sending you. Just come to Principal Kafele. Right. Oh, but Dr. Houston says she can leave comments. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Right. But here's what I do know. I'm in the building. Right. So let's go. Hey, y'all, let me say formally to everybody, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 325 consecutively, baby, of the AP and New Principals Academy. Hey, y'all, I got a question for you. You know what that question is. It's going to be the same one for the duration of this academy, as long as I could get up and talk to this computer, man. What were your wins last week? Right? Because a lot of y'all getting ready to go back to school. I know you're like, oh, don't even remind me. Now, a lot of y'all getting ready to go back. I mean, you already back, most of you, but your students, and your staff, right? Well, in your preparation, like, did you dream up something that you never conceptualized previously, right? And now you're in the initial stages of writing it out, plotting and planning of what this thing that you dreamt up may evolve into, right? Well, that's a win, right? Anything that's going to move the needle is a win. So what were your wins last week? And what will you do next week to take your leadership to another level? All that matters, y'all. All that matters, right? I got some announcements, y'all. And I was telling my guest, the instructional coach guru, Nicole Turner, I was telling her that give me a few extra minutes on my announcements this morning. I told her. And my monologue will be short. Ooh, hey, y'all, we got a forecast right now in Jersey. Maybe it's more than Jersey. It's supposed to be treacherous here, like flooding. Tornadoes are in the forecast, right? So I just heard the first thunder, man. So I don't know. I hope we stay connected, baby. We'll see what happens. But it's like Florida during hurricane season is the forecast, right? So we'll see what's what. I'm laughing now, but I might not be laughing later. Right. So let's go. Let me do these shout outs first. Shout out to Clinton High School in Clinton, Mississippi, National Association of Elementary School Principals in Orlando, Florida, Southern Regional Educational Board, SREB in Nashville, Tennessee, Red Clay School District in Wilmington, Delaware, Samoset Elementary School, part of Manatee County, Florida. Those are 5 different locations. That's where I spent my week, in 5 different locations, 5 different states this week. Did the flight gods work with me? Not really, right? But we got through, and here I am, home and back on the road tomorrow, right? But I gotta do something here. Clinton High School, we had a blast with that staff. It was their first day back, and we talked about a lot of things. And my man, Dr. Tommy Mabry, stopped by, and it was great to see him in his home state in that auditorium. So that was, shout out to Clinton High School if any of you are on this call this morning. Shout out to National Association of Elementary School Principals, and particularly to the folks that came to the sessions. I did too, man. We had a great time, a whole 1-hour book signing, and I think we sold out of all the books. And just shout out to them. It was a great day for me. It was a great seeing so many of the fam from Saturday. Great day. Then I flew on over to Nashville, SREB, Southern Regional Educational Board. Another great day, man. 2 sessions, huge room, gigantic room, and that way a room big enough to fit everybody, just like NAESP. None of them blunders where they give me a little tiny room and then you got a zillion people in the hallway that want to get in and they can't get in. So shout out to both organizations for projecting what size room I would need, right? And then just all the fam that I saw. Some that I know very well, others just fam that I don't know, but I know you fam. Shout out to all of you. I'm not going to drop names because I don't want to miss anyone out, leave anybody out. But shout out there. Then to go to Red Clay, and particularly shouting out Dr. Tawanda Bond, who's been good to me for the past few years, coming into that district and speaking, and Dr. Green, who's leaving, the superintendent, to go to another district in Pennsylvania, who's done phenomenal work there in Red Clay School District. And shout out to all those principals and APs and central office who were in that room. Had a great day with all of you, those of you who are on and those who are not on, with all of them. Leadership, you spent the whole morning just talking instructional leadership. That uncomfortable conversation that I have with pretty much 99.9% of my audiences now. That's really all I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about anything else. I let other people do that. I just want to talk instructional leadership. I want to talk pre-observation conversation. I want to talk post-observation conversation. I want to talk about the actual observation. I want to talk about scripting the lesson. I want to talk about a culture of instructional leadership. That's really all I want to talk about when I'm out on the road these days. So when I have to talk about other subjects, I push my way through. But my passion these days is just talking instructional leadership to a leadership audience. But I love talking to the teacher audience, because that's the segue to my last stop. Of all these things I just listed, these conferences, and by the way, hit that share button, retweet, repost, text somebody, tag somebody, call somebody, let them know we here, we live. Hit that like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. And if you dislike it, like it anyway, so that you can find some other people that dislike it with you, right? So hit that like button. But the last stop was the smallest stop, but the best stop. And I'm gonna put that out there. My last stop, which was yesterday, was my smallest stop as far as just the size of the room, and the size of the crowd. But it was my best stop. It was the one that's going to stay with me the longest, because I was at Samoset Elementary School in oh man, I can't remember the name of that town, man. It's Bradenton. That's what it is. I'll look it up in a second. And I know it by the county, Manatee County, Florida, right? And it was the staff. They came in on a Friday. They're normally not there, but the principal, I guess, was able to convince them to come in. And the principal, phenomenal leader, right? And if you saw my post, I looked at it this morning, it had 21,000 views, right? It was a post about this principal who was formerly an AP, became a principal of a different school, Abel Elementary School, and led the effort. I never want to say a principal turned the school around, but led the effort in turning a school around, and they got an A rating. So then she went back to a school that she was previously an assistant principal, and now she came back as the principal. The rating when she got there was, they call it triple D rating, tier 2. And in her first year last year as principal of that school, they have an A rating, number 1 Title I school in the Manatee County School District. Her name is Dr. Samantha Webb. Dr. Samantha Webb, they call her Sam, right? But Dr. Samantha Webb, she's quite impressive, right? And I made room. I don't have any openings until May for this platform. I have no openings until May. But you know what I did? I made room. I made room for a November opening. I think she confirmed, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to put the date. But I made room. I said, I can't wait till May to have her on. I need her sooner. So I was able to make room in November so that we can go one-on-one and talk about school turnaround, right? What that is, what it entails, all that kind of stuff. So shout out, if you're on here, Samantha, shout out to Principal Samantha Webb, principal of Samoset Elementary School, Manatee County School. Shout out to her, and this is a big and her staff. I was in the room with some phenomenal educators yesterday. I told you, man, I had a great week, man. The hundreds of people, all that kind of stuff. But being in that cafeteria yesterday from 9 till 1:30, I thought I was gonna miss my flight too, driving all the way to Tampa in a thunderstorm. But I made it. But being in that cafeteria with them teachers, and even Dr. Webb saw it not robbery. She provided every teacher in that building with a copy of my book, Closing the Attitude Gap. So I signed all those books, and then she had other books that I've written, and just a great day. So I'm looking forward. Yeah, Dr. Matthew. We made room, and Dr. Sonia Matthews, another one, that I got to see, and she introduced me at the, glad I just saw your name because I didn't have it on the dome, but she introduced me to the audience at NAESP, Dr. Sonia Matthews. So it's, it's a special thing. And then I can't leave out Dr. Equetta Jones, who also played a role in that, right? In terms of me being in the room. It's what a beautiful thing when it's the fam of the AP New Principals Academy, and they're the ones who are introducing you, not some stranger that you don't know, but it's someone that you connected to, relative to this platform and beyond, so shout out to Dr. Sonia Matthew, NBCT National Board Certified Teacher. Right. Good stuff. So that's it, y'all. That's my week. I'm glad to be home, but I'm back out there tomorrow for another 3. We ain't doing 5 no more this summer, but another 3. Welcome to the first timers. But if this is in fact your first time, you know the translation already. It means that you've missed 324 sessions. We've been doing this consecutively for 325 weeks. That's 6 years plus, 6 years and change, right? So you can go to the YouTube channel, AP and New Principals Academy, and binge watch everything you've missed. It's all there. YouTube, AP New Principals Academy. But be sure, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. There are 25,700 subscribers. 25,700 subscribers. We want you to be a part of that. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And then once you hit it, a notification bell will pop up. Click that too. And that way you'll be reminded of whenever I go live, which is only on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock on this channel. Right. So make sure you handle that. Where we at? Don't forget, and I'll be announcing this until September. Starting September, the first Saturday in September, which is September the 5th, we'll be doing, that's a first Saturday, so that means solo Saturdays, just me. But I'm only going to go for an hour, and then the second hour we switch over to Zoom, right? And so that we can dialogue on whatever my topic was and more, whatever you want to talk to me about or talk to the group about. So how do you get the link? Go to my AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. Once again, go to my AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page and simply type in the message, not on the thread, but go to my inbox and type "I'm down" or "I'm in." That's all. And then leave me your personal email address. Late August, I will send you the link. The link is not to be posted for your friends, y'all, because I don't want anybody on here. I only want people that's part of this academy, down with this academy, or people you recruit to this academy. But I don't want you putting it on there and then here come the trolls. Here come people cussing me out. Here come people with their racism, all that kind of stuff. Don't post, don't do that, because I'm subjected to that all the time, right? People like to come on my page and go buck wild, right? So instead of that, you control the link. If you got a colleague or a friend that should be a part of this discussion, then yeah, forward it to them, but tell them, don't post this. They get excited about, oh man, this great stuff. We dialoguing with Kafele on Saturdays, second hour. No. Don't post that though. Right? You send it to them directly. Right? People come on, man, them people, I ain't gonna call them by name because I could, but now they come on here, man, with their mess, right? And we're gonna keep it there because I want to keep it positive, but they come on here with their mess, all this name calling and all this kind of stuff, man. So, I don't want people having that kind of access to me, right? So just be obedient for me. Appreciate that. Let's go. 2 books that accompany this platform, right? Number 1, boom, The Assistant Principal 50. This is the book. A lot of people have been asking me for all summer, like, of your assistant principal books, of your leadership books, what is the one you recommend for the assistant principal or the aspiring assistant principal first? This, The Assistant Principal 50. Got to get this. If you're a principal already, I still say this, because we have a lot of principals that have no clue. Hear me, no clue. One more time, no clue. A bonus, no clue as to how to develop an AP. Well, I break it down right here. But then this one, and I don't care who you are again. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? You got to get this. This is the book that I go around America talking about, right? The various different chapters in the book. This is my passion right here, this one. So make sure you get yourself a copy. Get it right now. Just go to another tab on your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever you're using. Get this. I mean, I got to tell you, Nobody should be using this book. I mean, should be avoiding this book. This book, that book should be, oh, look at my brightness. Look what happened. Oh my God. There we go. It's got to be in your arsenal. Got to be. I got to tell you something. I was somewhere, I'm not going to tell you where, but somewhere, and someone told me that we were using this book. This is my Equity and Social Justice Education 50. But then they said, I'm not going to tell you where I was, but they said they banned this book. It was at a university. That's the best I'm going to tell you. They said this book got banned. They said we ain't using this because of the title, the Equity and Social Justice Education 50. I felt two emotions on that. I felt bad and I felt elated, right? Simultaneous. I'm like, man, people gonna be deprived. But then I said, but yeah, I ain't mad at you. That's what you gonna do. That's what you do what you gotta do. But I'm still gonna let you know it exists. And I've heard it's banned in other places. It's not because it's a bad book. It's not an attack book. It's not a racism book. It's a book that talks about equity and social justice education. Not social justice in isolation, education, right? But they said, nah, we ain't using that in this university. I said, all right, well, that's America. That's where we are. Ain't no books is supposed to be banned, man. That stifles critical thinking, right? Nothing, even books that I don't like, they shouldn't be banned. They should, in a country like this, no book should be banned, especially at the university level. But that's where we are. Enough said, y'all. I got a monologue this morning, man. You know I don't do nothing without no monologue. And then I'm going to bring up this superstar guest I got waiting in the wings, right? My monologue. I came up with this less than 24 hours ago. I said, leaders are writers. Once again, my topic, leaders are writers. Hey, check this out, fam. And some of y'all might disagree, but that's okay. That's what the world is. We're allowed to disagree with one another. But I'm gonna tell you something. As a leader, you being a writer is non-negotiable. Ooh, that thunder is coming heavy, y'all. You as a writer is non-negotiable. You must write. I don't mean necessarily that you must write a book, but I'm not going to rule it out either. But I am saying that as a leader, there's a lot of books and journals and articles and blog posts and so on that are out here about leadership that are not always or not necessarily always written by people who are practitioners, people who have done this work. This is people who may have researched this work or people that just kind of know something about this work. But you that tune in here, you're in the trenches. You know this work intimately. It doesn't mean that everybody is functioning at this level. We're in all different places, but I'm saying whatever level you are, you've learned some things in terms of just your boots on the ground. See, so you have to share that. You have to be a writer. It could be a social media post. It could be a blog post of a little blog page that you have. I got a little blog page. You know, it's no major organ or anything like that. It's just a little Principal Kafele Writes. I bet you 90% of y'all didn't even know I had it, right? It's called principalkafele.writes.com, right? And it's got a zillion blog posts I've written over the years, right? So that's my little blog page. And I'm saying I don't promote it a lot, but I do look at the data all the time. Hundreds of people are on that site all the time. Every month I look at the data. Like, wow, look how many people are on here reading these articles. And of course, I have the data for each article, right? So although I'm not on here saying, don't forget to go to Principal Kafele Writes, I say go to principalkafele.com because it will direct you to Principal Kafele Writes on the page, right? There's a tab for it. So I'm saying to you, as a leader, you must be a writer. Like two things here. I could say more, but I'll limit it to these two. You must be a writer and you must be a reader, right? Let me say it again. You must be a writer and you must be a reader. You've got to read, you've got to read, you've got to read. And when you finish reading, read some more, right? So you've got to be a reader because you've got to be a learner, right? But in addition to that, as you are in fact learning from your reading, as you are in fact learning from your leadership, now you got to be a writer because you've got to share what you've accumulated over time with others, right? You got to share it with others. That matters, right? There's some young head out there that doesn't have your experience, doesn't have your wisdom, right? But if you start writing and you market yourself in a way that others know you write, now you're giving them access to your writings, and now it's a win-win for everybody. Your brand is growing, but now other people get to learn from your experience versus the one that's never did it but writes well, and therefore it's a good article. My respect, and I've said it on this platform a million times, and I say it in front of a live audience. I don't have an interest in a leadership presentation, keynote, breakout, whatever it is. I have zero interest in listening to someone talking leadership that has never led, right? I don't want to hear them, and I'm going to walk out, right? If I find that out in the middle of the presentation. I don't mind listening to a speaker at a leadership conference who's never led if they're not talking leadership. They could be talking some other things that a leader could kind of take this, take that, take this, take that, and infuse it into what they do. But if you in there to talk to me about being a better leader, and I find out you haven't led, and particularly led at a high level, then I really don't have interest in listening to you. All you're doing is entertaining, right? You don't know this. Right. Let me see your receipts. Let me see that what you're talking about, you did it, and you did it at a high level. And now you got my full attention. You got my ears, you got my eyes. I'm focused. I'm locked in. Right. So I'm saying to you, if you lead, you must write. Right. I'm not saying a book, but I'm not saying you shouldn't write a book. Right. But you must write. Right. People need to be exposed to your experiences. It could be just a good Facebook post. I don't mean an essay post. I mean just a good Facebook post, maybe 5 sentences that somebody could say, bam, that's what I needed to read, right? Or you may go beyond Facebook and have your blog page, or you may look at some of these various organizations such as your ISTE ASCD, such as your NAESP, your NASSP, and some of these organizations are undergoing name changes, but that's another story. But they have blog pages, and you may want to submit to them so that you can be not blog page, article, or blog pages and journals. And now you'll find your article in a journal, and people can benefit from it. So as I close out, once again, leaders are writers. And if you're not writing, but you're a leader, your brother, Principal Kafele, is saying, let's start writing. Pick up your pen and start writing. And I'm going to tell you one more thing, and then I'm gonna step away from this. When you write, it stimulates thinking. When you write, it allows you to process differently from just thinking in isolation. When I write a book, when I write a blog, when I write a post, thoughts start conjuring up that I did not have when I started, because there's something about writing that the brain, it activates something in the brain. I can't say this scientifically. I know one of you out there probably could. I'm saying it like a neophyte baby, right? But I don't mind that. But it stimulates something in the brain, and things that you had stored way back here that you didn't even remember that you had start coming to the fore, right? And now all of a sudden, because a lot of these books I've written, things just came from like, where is this coming from? I knew this like 20 years ago, but it hasn't been in right here up front. And now all of a sudden, like, wow, right? But that doesn't happen to me in verbal communication. It happens to me in written communication, because the writing, you can pause. When you're talking to somebody, you going. But when you writing, you could write a sentence and then stop and think and process and go deep. And it stimulates connection to other ideas, other thoughts that you had in your mind that you didn't even know you had. Enough said, somebody. Once again, leaders are writers. I got a guest today, y'all. This is her third time on here, and let me get her on up here. We got the guru in the building, Nicole Turner. Good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. That guru name, I don't know, Principal Kafele. I
Nah,
just
nah.
like to share some of my experiences.
Well, let me argue with you.
Oh my
Right.
God.
I don't mind. I'm always down for a good intellectual debate, right? So
Okay.
let me let me say this to you. You get around, but so do I. And I can go in a room. A matter of fact, forget the hypothetical. I did this week. I'm telling folks when I'm promoting this, I'm telling folks, hey y'all don't want to miss this week. I got Nicole Turner, simply instructional coaching. I got her coming on. People were like, "Oh, you got Nicole Turner?" I swear to God, you got Nicole Turner coming on. No, I agree. That's what I mean, people said this to me, Nicole. I agree. She is the guru. Come on, fire back at me. Let's go. I'm ready.
Okay. Hey, okay. I won't argue with you, but I know that you run a strict program. I know you run a strict program, but I do want to piggyback a little bit off of your monologue.
No, hang on.
If you
Hang
don't
on with that.
mind.
Hold that thought for a second. A lot of my guests lately, I tell them, I say, what's your thoughts on my monologue? So you on point. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, so you want me to so here's the thing. I know that you remember this in 2019, 2018, 2019. When you posted, it was 2018. When you posted the exact it's funny that you said this today. When you posted on Facebook in whatever Facebook group it was, and you challenged us to write a book. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do. I do.
And you challenged us to write a book. And that is the reason why my first book was written.
Wow.
Literally, and you did the back cover of that first book.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that we go way back then. But you challenged me and I reached out to you and I said, Principal Kafele, you challenged me to write this book. You told me that I had to be a writer.
Yep.
That was in addition to my father had cancer and my last cognitive conversation with him. He was in the hospital and I was going to school to be a nurse. Now, this is funny. I was an assistant principal going to school to be a nurse at that time.
Wow.
And my dad said, "You're not going to be a nurse. You're going to write a book." I was like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not writing a book for anything." And I was like, "No." He passed away in that October 2016. And then it was 2018 that you posted that. And I said, okay. I felt like you were my father's voice saying, "Get it done."
Get it done.
Right. And so I got it done. And there you go.
There we
So
go. And
listen to what he is saying when he tells you that you need to be a writer. This is the reason why my voice is out there for everyone. And it was because of my dad and Principal Kafele. So I will say that. Make
and
sure everyone knows that.
and you put out some strong stuff, and they thick too, right?
Uh,
So you got a lot. It ain't like you said. I got just a little something I want to say. Now they thick too, right? So this is one of a few simply instructional coaching, and we gonna get to them other ones too. Let me read this bio, y'all. She sent me. She was obedient, man. She sent me the short one. Some people be sending me the page and a half joint when I say just send me a half page. Nicole S. Turner is a Solution Tree author, national speaker, and former Indiana Department of Education school improvement and turnaround specialist. With more than 18 years of experience as an education practitioner, Nicole has served as a teacher, instructional coach, district coach, and school administrator, giving her a practical understanding of how to strengthen instruction and support implementation and improve student outcomes. For the past 9 years, Nicole has trained and coached educators, instructional coaches, and administrators in districts across the country, including leading a national cohort program serving approximately 100 instructional coaches. Her work is grounded in research-aligned instructional strategies and coaching systems that help teachers, coaches, and school leaders build a shared language for effective instruction. Hey, y'all, I want to read that one line again because it really stood out for me. And school leaders, well, let me take the whole sentence. Her work is grounded in research-aligned instructional strategies and coaching systems. Now, here's the part that help teachers, coaches, and school leaders build a shared language for effective instruction. That's key, that word, that shared language. Through Simply Coaching Company, Nicole partners with schools and districts to strengthen teacher practices, build instructional coaching systems, support school leaders, and help educators move from professional learning into consistent classroom implementation that can be observed, supported, and strengthened over time. Good stuff, good stuff. You know, speaking of the book, Nicole, this was the latest, Simply Instructional Coaching, subtitle Questions Asked and Answered from the Field, and forward by Steve Barkley. This is a powerful book, folks. You know, keep in mind today's session is not designed for an instructional coach to be on. The instructional coaches will benefit. Everything that we do on this platform is for the leadership, but now we're talking about the instructional coach relative to what you do, right? So, but she's got a new one out called Simple Strategy Coaching. Just hold that up to the screen right quick.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not released yet, but I just want you to get a sense of the cover, right? Simple Strategy Coaching, published by Solution Tree, and that'll be released soon, but you can pre-order, I think, right now.
Yeah, that you could grab the digital copy of
Yeah.
it, the unreleased digital copy of it, at shop.simplycoaching.co. So
There
you can
you
just
go.
grab that. It's a digital download until Solution Tree gets it out there.
There you go. All right, folks, we got a lot to talk about. So get your pens out, your pad, old school, and here we go. You know, Nicole, I got a three-parter for you. You stopped by the academy here for weeks 182 and 212, right? So
Oh,
now here
wow.
we are, 182, 212, and here you are at 325. As a coach of instructional coaches, in what ways have you evolved since the last time you were here? And as you answer, I'm just going to adjust my air conditioner because I'm sitting here sweating. So go ahead and I hear you.
No problem. No problem. So much has evolved over time. I think one of the biggest things I think that what has evolved in my work. So when I was an instructional coach, I pretty much had an opportunity to work with my principals, and my leadership team, and we over time was able to really build a strong, I would say, coaching program in our building. And so what I've learned as I go out into the field and I work with these instructional coaches, the biggest thing that I've learned is that leaders have to create the culture for coaching to happen. And that is a big piece of the shift that I am seeing, that I am hearing. Like, there has to be a culture of coaching, number one. And the creating that culture of coaching reduces the resistance in coaching. We so have right now a negative connotation of what coaching is. So that's one thing. Principals must create the opportunities for coaching. Principals must create the culture for coaching to happen. And I think the final piece is that principals must coach before they evaluate. And so those are the three things that I will say I've learned since leaving my world. You know, like when you teach at your building and you're like in your district, you're in your bubble, right? And when you come outside of your bubble and you look around and you're like, y'all not doing that? What, you not doing this? Like, you know, it becomes like a But then I've learned that those are some of the weak spots. So those three things: we have the culture, we have the alignment, and then we have the final one, which is the principals and APs must coach before they actually evaluate.
Let me ask you this. So because you said something that intrigued me. So you go in there and you go in there with a certain knowledge base, a certain level of experience, and then you see that things that should be happening are not happening. We in a bad storm, y'all. It's like It's like being in Southern Florida right now.
Yeah. That's how it was here in Indiana yesterday.
Oh wow, yeah. So let me ask you this. So when you see that, in addition to your just internal surprise, how do you approach that without offending?
I just ask, have they ever heard of it? What are some of the reasons why they're not doing it? Because a lot of times we think because the internet is out there, we think that and we think that everyone is a researcher. You just said it in your monologue. You know, you have to be a reader, you have to be a writer, right? We come with this assumption because of what we do that everyone reads and everyone Googles and everyone spends time doing that and everyone doesn't. So there's some lack of knowledge there, right? And so my first question is just asking, have you ever heard of this strategy? Have you ever heard of this piece? And then if they have, you could then say, what are your barriers in which you have in order to implement this? And then that starts that conversation.
Love it, love it. And by the way, fam, before I go to this next part of the question, I failed to do something during my announcements. Just want to make sure that I do this because this is what we do. Every Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, the Super Saturday show on Heard at 10 o'clock, Facebook Live and YouTube, followed by Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor, followed by the AP New Principals Academy with yours truly. And then Sunday, we roll over to Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno with the PGP podcast. And with the four of us, we call ourselves the Fantastic Four, right? 4 different platforms. You can't go wrong with the 4 of us because none of us are saying the same thing. We're all approaching this through a different lens. So you get a lot between the 4. So make sure that you're tuning in to all 4 of us every weekend, either live or the video. It matters, right? Let's go. So Nicole, you're also a business owner. You're an entrepreneur who happens to be a consultant, who happens to be a speaker. My question to you, since the last time you were here, again, 182, 212, so we're talking about over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
How has your business evolved relative to what you do, if at all?
Yeah, so it evolved in the fact that a couple of years ago or a year ago, I started a membership, an online kind of like component for people to come in. And what I learned is that people don't want more professional development.
Yeah.
What they want is to figure out ways in which how to do things, the how to, and give me the resource so that I can implement it. And so that has been something as far as my business. I've also come from, I stopped allowing schools to bring me in for 1 day or 2 days.
Oh, you stopped it?
And that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, like we are doing a partnership and we are going to see some growth. So the last schools, I've reduced kind of how many districts that I work with every year because it's just me. But I'm going deeper.
Yeah.
And we're going to depth because me showing up and popping up on 2 days and I'm coming to give you the content and then I go away because mine are frameworks. It must be implemented. You are going to come up against some type of roadblock, right? And so what I've been doing is that I come in person, do the professional development, get you accustomed, learning the language, learning the what to do, and then I support you virtually throughout the year in implementing that work.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of this last year. I worked with a school in on the Navajo reservation in Arizona, and so it was just an amazing opportunity. Went there 3 times in person. The very first one, we did all the PD, but in between that, we did all the virtual sessions. Principal Kafele, this year, I am happy to report that some of their 3rd and 4th grades, they hit over 20 percentage points of gains in their 3rd and 4th grade, both reading and math, because of this work. And that comes from coaches, coaching. I mean, principals coaching before they evaluate. That becomes coaching. Coaches knowing what it is that they need to do. Them not being what I call Olivia Pope coaching, where they're just putting out the fires. So all of that is what really shifts and change that work. So That's what I'm excited about. That's how the business has changed. Me being, I want to be a teammate, not just a consultant.
Yeah, yeah. Is that thunder coming through my mic?
A little bit, but not
Okay.
strong.
No, I
Yeah.
just wondered if you even can hear it, you know.
Yeah,
So
just a little.
okay. You know something? Here's my notes. I'm putting them out of my reach. Because you just said something. I'll come back to my notes. Hey y'all, hey fam, stay locked in. We got to talk about some things. You just said, and I noticed Nita Creekmore had agreed with you. You said coaching before evaluation.
Yeah.
Principals must coach, and I'm assuming that implies the AP as well, administration.
Administrators. Yep.
Coaching before evaluation, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so what you said and why I just said, let me forget about my script for a while. Let's talk about just that, because what you said is how I make my living, right? It's
Mhm.
as I said in the monologue or the introductions, it's all I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about anything else, right? Don't invite me for other things. I just want to come in here and talk about this, because I too say that you cannot evaluate a teacher if you haven't coached that teacher.
Right.
Right? To me, it just doesn't make sense. Did I understand that as a rookie, brand new principal? No. Right? I'm
Mhm.
not going to fake the funk. No, no, no. I had
Mhm.
to figure that part out. I had to grow and learn and become wise. Right?
Mhm.
So therefore, so that I don't preach the sermon, I want you to be the preacher today. How do we get around that though? Because there's so many leaders that I work with. I mean, of course, I have my answers, but I'm not a solo today. We got you on. So you got so many leaders who understand theoretically what you just said. They understand theoretically what I preach, right?
Mhm.
That you cannot go in here and evaluate folks and you have no role as their coach. It's comparable to the athlete, expecting that athlete to just grow into the sport without any teaching, training, and coaching. So here's
Right.
my question to you. That principal that comes to you and says, I don't have that kind of time. I know what you mean, Miss. I don't know if they call you Coach Turner, Mrs. Turner, Nicole. Wait, right? But whatever they call you, I understand. But I don't have that kind of time. My plate is full. I just got to get in there and do that evaluation. What's your response?
My response is, would you walk into a classroom on the first day of school, give your students an assessment, and then say, this is your final grade?
Mm,
You would never do that. If we
mm,
did, all us teachers would be fine, right? We actually assess where our students are, we teach and coach, and then we assess at the end, right? So that's how we have to think about evaluations, because otherwise it's just a compliance piece. Why are we doing evaluations that they become purposeless if it's not for people to get better? Right? The same as we do assessments. We do pre-assessments so that we can see where our students are. And then we design lessons and we design coaching, right? Through that process. We reteach, we put them, we do exit tickets, we do all of those things. And then at the end, we give them an assessment, and then that becomes their grade. So what we have to start to think about is that your being more intentional with what it is that you're required. So I was an administrator for several years, right? So I get it. I totally understand. I know that there are some districts that are putting things like compliance pieces in. Well, principals have to go and do walkthroughs every single week. Okay, great. I'm doing walkthroughs, but what is my purpose? So like at the beginning of the year, we all do this, all administrators, every been across the country. And I worked at the Indiana Department of Education. I'm a school improvement turnaround specialist for several years. I
mm.
know that at the beginning of the year, there is a group of people who sit down and write a school improvement plan, right? And then when they upload it on September 1st to whatever state place that they need to, it goes away. But that should be Bible for the year,
I
right? That is what we should be working for. So now when I'm doing my required walkthroughs, I'm providing feedback based on our school improvement plan, because then teachers can see, okay, well, she's doing her walkthroughs. We are actually looking at X, Y, and Z because it aligns to our school improvement plan. That's how we're going to get better. I tell people, like in my trainings when I work with coaches and leagues, because I require principals and coaches to both be in my training. So this is not just a training just for coaches, but I have them to do that because they have to set that culture of coaching. It all starts with that school improvement plan. And so now I tell them a lot, like I refer to Lean on Me, right? The movie Lean on Me. And you know, Joe Clark, my homie, right? He walked around and he had everyone to do what? Be able to talk or sing the school song on demand.
Yeah.
Okay. So why our students should know our goals for the year, our teachers should know our goals for the year. They should be able to say that because they should be able to know why we are doing what we're doing. We have to talk about the why behind the what. So, yes, you have all of these other things going on, but if you don't coach before you evaluate, then your students will never move. So, yes, we have the compliance issues. I mean, we have people who left the classroom, they moved up top, and now they confused about life. I will say that. I tell some superintendents, do you remember what it's like to be in the classroom?
Yeah.
I'm sure I didn't get some of those contracts, but I asked them, I'm like, do you remember what it was like? Because they are the soldiers they're the front line, right? They are the ones that's working. You have to coach them and make them stronger. I also tell them this other situation, or I think about this when you think about building teachers toolkits, because that's basically what we're supposed to do as a principal, assistant principal, and instructional coach. We're all an instructional leadership team. Our goal is to build the teachers toolkits. Now think about how we put up houses nowadays. So if you go back old school, a lot of houses are what? Brick houses. They're masonry work. And how do they build it? They build it brick by brick by brick, right? Takes a long time.
Yeah.
But if I took my fist and I decided one day to get mad and punch the brick, my hand is going to break.
Yeah.
Very hard for me to go through that. Nowadays, you can go to some of these houses and they're all what? Drywall. It's all up, easy, fabricated, right? And if you decide that you want to punch your hand through the wall, it'll go right through the wall. What we want to do is build teachers' toolkits so that they are brick walls and not dry walls. And so even when we decide that, oh, I'm going to become superintendent, or I'm going to work for this, or I'm going to leave the field, those teachers' toolkits are very strong. And that's how we get our students, that's how we impact instruction, because we're building through that. So I tell principals, I understand you have a lot on your plate, and I understand that, but these are the different ways that you can do it. Just have a coaching conversation with the teacher and then move it on over to your coach. Because we've created a culture of coaching where everybody is being coached, because no one shows up at the Olympics without a coach.
Yeah.
And I think about it. I look at some of the coaches for the Olympics. I'm like, they probably couldn't even do that cartwheel, right? They probably couldn't do that cartwheel, but they know how to tell you because they're the external eyes and ears, right? Seeing you, giving you a different perspective of what's happening. So that's what I tell principals. Like, I give them all of that. And this is what you have to do. And regardless to whatever, that is where you have to go.
I love it. You said a whole lot. Let me jump. I love it. Let me jump in on something you said. You said you require the leader to be in the room when you're speaking to staff, right?
Yes.
So do I. So if I could holler at the consultants and speakers who are out there watching right now that haven't infused that into their work, let me say this. I'll speak on behalf of Nicole and myself. I'm not talking to a teacher audience and the principal is not present. I'm not doing it. I'm leaving. If the principal can't be there, I don't want to be there, right? Because they have to hear what I said. Now, let me go to my new buddy, Dr. Samantha Webb, again, at Somerset Elementary School in Manatee County, Florida, yesterday. She sat front and center, looking dead in my eyes for 4 hours, right? And then anything that I said to her staff, that she felt I need to jump in here and tag team this with you, she would say, Principal Kafele, let me say something about that too. And she would come right up there. I said, the floor is yours. And she go ahead and start schooling her staff, right? That's the way it should be, right? Not the administration. They're going to hang out in the office while
Right.
your staff is hearing something new and different, and now you're not there to enforce what it is that they're hearing because you don't know what it was, right? So yeah, I'm with you all the way. I love it. I love it. I love it. So to the consultants out there watching, and that's not one of your requirements, hear it from myself and Nicole. Make a shift in your contract or just your verbal statement that the leader, if you're in there to talk to non-administrators, the leadership needs to be in that room for the entire day.
Yep.
It matters. It matters. And again, speaking for me, if they can't be there, I don't want to be there. I'm not going to be there. Right. Here's another thing, Nicole. The assistant principal. Stereotypically, this person is the dirty work person. Stereotypically, because I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush. So they you know, the stereotypically, they don't know what's happening in the classroom. All they know is which teachers are sending down a whole lot of referrals, right?
Yeah.
But outside of the pedagogy, they're not privy to that because they're not in the room to see it. So thereby, they're not coaching this teacher. So to put into the sequence, I'm not coaching and thereby not in that room to see the results of any real coaching, right? So my question to you, what is your message to not only an AP, because it's not the AP in isolation, it's the one that's leading that AP, right? So what is your message to an AP and a principal about the fact that the AP actually evaluates teachers that he or she never sees in teaching in a classroom?
Okay. So let me rewind a little bit.
Mhm.
Number one, coaching is not just for instruction.
Right.
So we need to make sure that people understand that. So what I did was, and because of that point, what I did was I created something called the Simple Growth Path. And so what the Simple Growth Path is, it creates 2 lanes for the way in which we work with teachers. We either do the readiness or we do impact. So either we are focusing on instructional readiness or we're focusing on instructional impact. So if I have a teacher that's sending me multiple students consistently, then clearly they need to be working on instructional readiness. So now I am going to coach them as an AP. If my job is to work for behavior, then I am coaching that teacher on instructional readiness. Instructional readiness is organization and management culture. It's not just classroom management. And in that growth path, I break it down into there are 12 total impact drivers in which I talk about. So like if I'm working with a teacher, I go into the classroom management is a mess. It doesn't start with classroom management. It starts with organization. It starts with the classroom flow. It starts with how students are walking into the classroom. It starts with how the teacher is organized for the week. It starts with all of that. So that is where we are starting, right? And so we're looking at that piece. So the AP, if I am focused on instruction, I am now coaching teachers on instructional readiness and making sure that they have all of those pieces of the puzzle together. So that's my coach before I evaluate, because no instruction will happen in chaos, right? And so we have to make sure that we get there. But classroom management is more than just, okay, I'm gonna put up a tally chart on the board. Like it's more than that. And so we're not just going towards that. We're looking all the way, through the bottom of that piece. So that is one of the biggest components of all of that. So APs, your focus is instructional readiness, and then principals could be instructional impact, which is content and instructional execution. So those are the 4 pillars. So we have organization, management culture, content, instructional execution. And so instructional readiness is that organization, management, and culture. And then that instructional impact would be your content and instructional execution.
I love it. I love it. Instructional readiness, instructional impact. We could probably do the whole session on that alone. You bring a wealth of information, which I stand firm on why I call you a guru. right. I stand firm there. Right. Let's go. I'm still in question one. It was a three-parter. Oh my God. I
We
got
can roll
10.
through them. We can roll through
Yeah, I got 10 questions, man. And that's not including your talking points, by the way.
them.
Given just the normal shifts in the profession,
Yep.
right? Because it's always shifting, pivoting, evolving, etc. But given the normal shifts in the profession, which what are the shifts or pivots that you may have had to make toward remaining relevant in this work?
Going back to what we kind of talked about earlier, people don't just want more professional development. They need the actual how to and the support in implementing this.
Yeah.
And so the new book, The Simple Strategy Coaching, really talks about that instructional readiness, instructional impact, so people could actually understand what it is that we're teaching. So when I was coaching, I had a lot of Teach for America teachers. I had a lot of teaching fellows from Indianapolis, teaching fellows, and I then started to have like the long-term subs, right? And so a lot of those educators or those people transitioning into education, they got a quick, right, few little pedagogy, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but they didn't know how to transfer learning, right? And so because of that, because of where we are, we have a lot of bodies in classrooms, but we don't necessarily have a lot of instructional strengths. And so my work now focuses, instead of like, oh, we're just going to do a quick coaching cycle, right? Like, no, what we're going to do is we're going to teach teachers how to transfer learning. And so that has been the biggest shift. And that is not just instructional coaches. As we are dealing with a lot of budget cuts, a lot of instructional coaches are going back into classrooms, right? But what's happening is that now we're leaving out those teachers to be by themselves, to not have that support than what we need. And so now we have to build teacher leaders who are in the classroom, but could also support teachers. And so with that shift, that's why we need the simple strategy. I mean, we need the strategy coaching. We need to teach teachers and build their stronger toolkits with bricks and not with drywall.
Good stuff. I got one more preliminary. All these questions have actually been just to reintroduce you to people who know you and introduce you to people who are not familiar with you. And I got one more, and then we really jump into the meat of our conversation. Your brand, in terms of your work, your business, etc., your writing, your brand is instructional coaching, unless I miss something, right? Mm-hmm. Instructional coaching is who you are professionally. My question is why? Why such a passion for instructional coaching versus everything else that you could be addressing?
So when I first became an instructional coach, I don't know if people know, there was a movie called Waiting for Superman back in the day.
Yeah.
And there in that, it was a clip where there were a bunch of teachers that were just sitting in a room, and then they would call the teachers out. Basically, they were waiting on their retirement, right? So IPS, the school district I was working for at that particular time, they kind of followed that model a little bit. They threw all of us into what we call a cadre. So I was riffed as a teacher because we were surplus of teachers back then. And I was riffed, and we were placed in a big, gigantic gym room, and we just sat at a desk all day. And so everyone, at the beginning, I'm like, shoot, I'm getting my paycheck and I'm gonna sit here and chill. Like, it was cool at the beginning. But the educator in me, I was like, I just can't just sit here and not do anything. So eventually I got a call from downtown, some lady I had never met. She said, hey, Nicole, I want you to come in for your, to have a conversation. I'm thinking they're going to give me what building, what classroom I'm going to when I'm out. The lady said, hey, we have this role called differentiated accountability coach. And I was like, okay. And they said, well, you were good in the classroom from what I understand. Your principal said you were good. So we're going to throw you into this role. I was like, okay, well, do you know what this does? And she was like, no, your principal will let you know when you get to the building. It's like, okay, cool. So I get to the building next day. I'm like, hey, I'm Nicole Turner. I'm your differentiated accountability coach. And she was like, okay, let me take you to your room. Right. So I got into a room where it was a bunch of dust and I had to, use bleach to get it together. And I said, well, do you know what I wanted, what I do? And she was like, well, no, they just sent you here. I said, but I know you got 3 things. You got morning duty, lunch duty, and dismissal duty. And I was like, okay. So went on about my day. The next day, my district coach came. I said, do you know what this role does? And he said, well, we have a new curriculum and teachers are to teach you with fidelity. So every Friday, you need to collect all of the students' testing from grades 3 through 8, because I was in a K-8 building, and you need to insert each one of their answers into a spreadsheet and send it downtown. Oh, and make teachers better. That was my start into instructional coaching. I had no other guidance. No one even knew what I was supposed to do. They didn't know what I was supposed to do. They had got some grant money. They pulled me from the cadre. I was a good teacher, right, in the classroom. So they wanted me to replicate myself to all these other teachers. There was no introduction to this role, how it was supposed to work, what was we supposed to do, any of that. And so it became a fight, right? Because teachers were like, well, who are you and why are you in my room? And then we got, all of this happening. I'm trying to build relationships. It was the worst year of my entire career. And with that being said, that is how I decided that I knew that there were others that were out there. I started a Facebook group, and in 30 days, it was over 500 people, all asking the same questions that are in that. That's how that book came about. Simply Instructional Coaching, because it's filled with all the questions that people were asking. I have a passion for coaching because, one, I know I've seen it work. Second, in my school improvement work, I worked with 55 schools across the state, and 83% of my schools came out of school improvement because of coaching. Third, I don't want to be an administrator. I was an administrator and my kids were sleeping on the floor and it was midnight. And I was like, nope, going back. Love admin, but nope, I like coaching. And I wanted to be close to the curriculum and close to the work. And working with teachers. I love to see that light bulb go off. And so that's my passion. I know that there are so many school districts that throw coaches into these roles, and no one understands what it is that they have, and they just don't have any of that work. So that's where this work comes from, and it is truly a passion, because you can see I'm getting hyped talking about it.
No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. In 2023, I want to put this up again. You published Simply Instructional Coaching, Solution Tree publisher. Again, questions asked and answered from the field. So if anyone out there doesn't have this yet, and we're going to talk about the new book as well, but if anyone doesn't have this, because 2023, that means it's still new, right? And, get yourself a copy of this, Simply Instructional Coaching. It's a phenomenal book. I'm just curious, what is some of the feedback that you have received from instructional coaches relative to the kind of content that you have provided them? And I kind of tweaked that question because of something that I just read, and I want to put it on the screen. Here it is. Getting knowledge that I didn't know I needed. I don't know that a compliment could be greater than that. I think that is the pinnacle of a compliment, that someone that does the work that we do could tell us. You telling me things I didn't even know and she didn't say wanted, she said needed. So in that vein, talk to us about some of the feedback that you have received as it relates to this invaluable information that you provide.
I think one of the main reasons why my voice is different is because I talk from experience, and I talk from practice, and I give you the steps to implement it. So a lot of times there are a lot of people, and especially in the instructional coaching world, where they give you all the theory, give you all the research, give you all the what it could possibly look like, but they don't say, now this is how you do it. Right. So I like to go back and say, okay, here's the theory. Here's some of this. Here's some of the stuff that we say, because when I look at research, you have to look at where the research is coming from, where it is that the limitations of the research, right? So if I have some research on an instructional strategy, but they only did it in a rural setting, that's a limitation to that research, because yes, it worked here, but will it work in inner city? Will it work in this other school? Will it work in private schools? Will it work in charters? You know what I'm saying? So we have to I talk about, yes, here's the theory, here's the research, here's some things that it says behind, here's some of the limitations of the research. Now let's talk about how we implement it. These are the steps that you do it. Because a lot of times people just need that implementation, which is one thing that I talk about in the strategy coaching book, is what I kind of coined is the implementation gap. Right? So there is an implementation gap that we have where people know about stuff and they understand it, but the actual implementation is the problem. They don't know how to implement it, or they are very they're very stuck in their own ways, in which we need to do some of that. So that's the big piece to that.
I'm sorry, we got storm issues here, so I just had to make sure that we doing the best we can.
That's
Right?
okay.
I live in a flood zone, but I did hear you. I did hear you. Just stand by 1 second. No. We here, y'all. We here. Hey, for those of you that are not aware of the East Coast, we under a tornado watch. We're flooding. My basement is flooded, right? So so every now and then I got to stop and just see how we doing, and we only in the beginning stages of this, so that's where we are. Y'all pray for me. All right, let's go. Where we at? All right, so Nicole, let me set this up for you. Instructional leadership or instructional leader is a title that we typically assign to administration.
Mm-hmm.
And instructional coach is a title that we typically assign to a person who is going to serve as a coach, who's still pretty much a teacher, but just not in the classroom teaching if they're full-time coach, right? They're not in administrative leadership. So I've struggled with that for years. Not the instructional coach. I've struggled with the administrator with this title, instructional leader, because there's no set definition that's universal for everybody, and we're seeing this thing through the same lens. So I think that the coach part, this is me now, with no research, just what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the coaching component of the instructional leadership gets lost, right? And now when one's calling themselves instructional leader, I don't know that the fullness of instructional leadership is actually being exhibited. So my question is real simple. I'm simply asking, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Here's the thing. If you're calling yourself an instructional leader, then you should be leading instruction. And if you're not leading instruction, then what are we doing? Leading instruction makes you do what? Be a coach. At any point, you're coaching before you evaluating.
Yeah.
So you have to, you could be the instructional leader. And I know people are like, well, I'm an instructional leader because I do walkthroughs. And I'm like, no, you providing feedback, but then what happens to the feedback? If people are not implementing the feedback, and if things are not shifting and changing in the classroom, then you're not leading instruction.
Yeah.
Because you're not, where are you leading it to?
Yeah.
To zero. You got to be leading it somewhere.
Yeah.
So you have to do some coaching within your leadership. Coaching is a part of leadership, period.
That's right. That's right.
And so you can't say that you're an instructional leader without coaching. It just becomes the instructional leader, which means that you make decisions, right? You make decisions. Instructional coach is just the person that doesn't make the decisions, but they just coach you through that process. So a lot of times you're not teaching students, but you're teaching teachers.
Yeah.
You're still teaching.
Key point about that decision making, that administrator making those decisions versus that instructional coach. So therefore, what should that instructional leadership versus instructional coach dynamic or relationship ideally, what should that look like? And as you answer, my volume's going to be up. I just need to look at my street to see if we're flooding outside the house. All right. So just go ahead and answer, and I'm going to hear everything.
No problem. So say that question again.
Yeah. So you got administration, principal, AP, whatever it is.
Yes.
Either one.
The relationship between the principal and the coach.
What should that whole, and I'm using that word dynamic intentionally, what should that dynamic / relationship, ideally, what should that look like?
Yes. So they should be lockstep. So for me, the lockstep is that the principal sets the means for coaching to happen. So they create the culture, and then your actual instructional coach helps to implement that work. And together they meet. So I have this thing where we do every single week, and I did this with my principal. Every single week, we do what I call impact meetings. And those impact meetings are 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. I know sometimes the coach and the leader, they have a good relationship, so they start talking about kids and all the things. But this is specific for your principal and your instructional coach, or your leadership team and your coach, and you meet for 30 minutes. Within those 30 minutes, you're setting the tone for exactly what it is, the coaching that we do. You then talk about where we are with teachers. You know, how many, because I have coaches to develop coaching sprints with teachers, not just coaching cycles, but coaching sprints. And so in that, as an instructional coach, I'm talking to my principal. Hey, I'm working with Miss Johnson. She's 30% through her sprint. We're working on entry level routines. Boom. So principal is updated on that. The next thing is that we do what I have a impact scorecard. That is the thing that changed the game for all of my districts that I worked with last year. But we do this and we review the impact of coaching in our building through our impact scorecard. A lot of people right now, I'm gonna say this, a lot of districts, they are checking, or they're looking at the instructional coaching time, right? So the time that the instructional coaches, what they're doing, but they're not tracking their impact. And so we want to look at the impact of coaching. So during that 30-minute meeting, we talk about the evidence. So we're looking at that impact scorecard. Then after that, we talk about the barriers. What are the barriers that teachers, what are the barriers that coaches are experiencing and they need from their leaders? So what are the barriers that are happening in the building in order to get the coaching going? And then we wrap up and talk about what should happen next before the next meeting. And so every single week, if coaches and leaders or leadership team with the instructional coaches all lock in, talk about those 5 things, then that's when we kind of see how they lockstep through that. And then if the principal, no, not if, but the principal should create the culture of coaching by making sure that there are opportunities for coaches to happen, and reiterating that coaching is what we do and that coaching is not punitive. Then that's how they work. That's how their dynamic works.
Yeah. Nah, that's good stuff. Good stuff. And to the fam out there, don't mind me if you see my lack of attention. We got a lot going on with this water, man. This is this look like it's gonna be one of them once in a lifetime storms, right? So but anyway, let me put this on the screen, Nicole. Gwendolyn Nixon said, I'd like to know more how you got through the initial pushback. But Gwendolyn, stay there because it's actually in my questioning, right? So just stay there and we're gonna work our way to it. So stay here, don't leave, stay with us. All right. So ideally, administrative leadership teams. This is something I talk about a lot. You know, I think, in fact, let me set this up for you, Nicole. I think about sports. I'm a sports guy. So coaches, athletic coaches meet regularly. I was doing research on the NFL, and NFL coaches during the season will meet without the players present anywhere from 60 to 100 hours a week. That's a whole lot of collaboration. So then I look at the schools and I say, man, a lot of schools are lucky if the administrators meet 1 hour per week. And an NFL team is working. NFL team is working toward the objective of winning a 60-minute game. That's the only amount of time a game is being played. The clock is ticking for 60 minutes. So my question: ideally, an administrative leadership team meets regularly. right? I'm not going to put a time frame, a quantity on it, just meets regularly. My question to you is, do instructional coaches have a place on that administrative leadership team agenda?
It kind of depends on the culture of the building. So what happened to me was in the beginning of when I transitioned to a new building, my principal put me in that team, but that team met like 2 hours
Mhm.
every single week because they would go from department to because it was a high school, department to department, giving their everything else. I requested to be relieved from that because those 2 hours I could be in the classroom working and supporting teachers. So what I did was created that 30-minute impact meeting that I just talked about. And that was way more impactful because I didn't need to know the budget of the athletic department that week.
Yeah,
Like I just didn't need to know that part.
yeah.
But what I did need to know was so we met, me, my principal, and our two APs and our CTE principal. So
Mhm.
all of us met together because we were the instructional leadership team.
Yeah,
Then that became the building leadership. So I didn't have to do anything with the building leadership, but I was a part of the instructional leadership. And I ran that meeting, and it was those 5 things that we did. And I put a 30-minute because Kafele, we like to kick it, right? We get
yeah,
into the meeting. Oh, those
yeah.
shoes are cute. Okay, cool. Let me pull that up on Amazon. Here go the link. Like we will do all of that in the meeting. But I'm like, no, set 30 minutes. Let's hit these 5 pieces. And then when it's over, boom. And then that's how we're done.
Well, let me tell you how I word it in this shameless plug. What is my value instruction to the teachers I supervise? In chapter 8 of this book, I say that the instructional coach must be a part of the meeting, but they must be at the very top of the agenda.
Yeah.
Right. So not subjected to all that stuff that you were listening to that is not relevant to what you do. Right.
Yeah.
Put the instructional coach at the top of the agenda. Spend whatever amount of time you need to spend talking instructional coaching only as it relates to their work. When it becomes irrelevant to their work, have a nice evening.
Yes.
Right. And that way
Yes.
we now they can leave, right, not
Hmm.
be subjected to all the other stuff. So therefore I'm in 100% agreement with you, and what you did was reinforce what I said. I just put it at the top of the agenda so that they can leave, because there's so, like I'll say to administrators or administrative team, there's so much to talk about administratively.
Hmm.
And most of that, if not 99% of it, is irrelevant to the instructional coach. So don't put them at the middle of the agenda or the end of the agenda. Now let's hear from you. No, let's talk instruction at the top, because that's the most important thing out of school safety
Right.
that we do anyway. Right.
Yes.
So let's put them at the top of the agenda, and then we finish, and then we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for your input and blah, blah, blah. Right. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I'm trying to see if there's anything in the comments that I need to put on the screen. Let's go. Nicole, I'm asked a lot, and I'm looking at my notes a lot because I put this agenda together last night on a plane. So I don't know it the way I normally would know it. But I'm asked by many about the overlap in some cases between the administrator's role as instructional coach and the instructional coach's role as instructional coach, where they're both focused on the same teacher in some cases, right?
Hmm.
Talk to us about the separation that may or may not be required. I'm curious to hear how you handle that, so that I'm not overwhelmed by two people, an instructional coach and an instructional leader. Of course, we know that the instructional leader is the one that writes the evaluation, but how do we keep that smooth to maintain the sanity of the teacher?
Yes. So a couple of things. One, at the beginning of the year, we have a meeting. I call it your principal coach meeting. And in that meeting, you create boundaries, right? You talk about what are the things that we are doing, the things that we are not doing, how a principal wants it ran. Does the principal, when you get to this answer, does it go to the principal or does it stay with me? Like, all of that. So you kind of set those boundaries at the beginning of the year. And then second, you have to establish how you are serving your teacher. So I teach coaches and leaders. There are 3 different ways in which we provide support. We provide support at the team level. So during your professional learning communities or your team, grade level team meetings, all of that, that is, we coach them. But I want to make administrators understand this. And I want to say this very clear. If your instructional coach is running your PLCs, then you're already at a deficit. And the reason being is because you know how you get teachers come to those PLCs and they're in there Googling and they're in there grading papers and they're in there doing all of that. You know why? Because they don't have any buy-in. And so if we go back to like looking at PLC at work, looking at the DeFors, looking at the 4 questions, right? Teachers run their PLCs. So now the coach is just a support system. The principal is a support system within those meetings. So teachers run that. As a coach or as a leader, I am supporting that, which means that whoever my grade level team lead is, I'm meeting with them one-on-one to say, hey, what are you guys working on? Let me see the agenda. How can I help? So on and so on, right? But I'm not spending my time in those meetings. They have those agendas. I know when they need it, when they need help. You know how I know? Because I'm looking at my data every single week in my impact scorecard. And if I see data dipping, then I know I need to attend that meeting. Right. So the very first thing is that we support teachers at that team level, like that team coaching. Then we have what I call skill-based coaching or our small group coaching. And in small group coaching, that is where we can have a kindergarten, a first grade, a 7th grade teacher, whatever, all in there because we're focusing on skills, right? So coaching the skills. And then the last one, we do one-on-one coaching. So not everyone needs that one-to-one coaching. So because of that, the principal and the coach, they have identified the ways in which they are supporting and who supports who. Now, what me and my principal did, he was awesome at this. If he did his weekly required walkthroughs, right, and he saw something come up, then he would actually provide some feedback with the teacher, some coaching feedback, and include me in on it and say, hey, this is great. We have this. And then now I would suggest that you work with Nicole to really start to work and get through that. And so that's how we would work. So they wouldn't hear from both of us continuously. I would then build a sprint with that teacher. And then I would just report back to our principal, hey, I'm working with Ms. Jackson. We are about 30% done in her sprint. We're focusing on what it is you saw. Now, here's the great thing is when the principal comes to do their evaluation, they know that we're working on it, or not evaluation, but their walkthroughs. They know that we're working on it. So they like, yeah, I see the improvement. Now is giving that positive feedback to that teacher. Like, okay, working with Nicole and my coaching I'm seeing, great things. I'm seeing gains in this work. Yeah. And so that's how they work together. No one should be coaching the same person. I say this all the time. Like we have a special education coach, a math coach, an ELA coach, and then you're working. All 3 of those coaches are working with that one teacher. That becomes a hot mess. So I would prefer, if it was me and I was running a building, I would prefer that we step away from content-specific coaches and we focus specifically on instructional strategy. And then we layer in the pedagogy and content versus versus us being pedagogy and content, you know what I'm saying, specialist, right? But then that teacher is working with 5 different coaches and then they're all confused because they don't know what to do, when to do. Okay, well, Nicole said this, but John said that, but Tina told me this, and so they become confused on that. So you have to get the layers of coaching very explicit in your boundaries meeting at the beginning of the year. And then try to give them, I call it my MTSS kind of like model of coaching, providing teachers the support that they need where they are.
I'm so glad I asked you that question because you expounded on it so vastly. I didn't even have in my mind the other layers of coaches, right? Mm-hmm. But what you said was so true. And now here's a teacher. You got all these folks in their ear. Mm-hmm. And them folks that are in their ear are probably not talking to each other.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So now you got all these perspectives and the teacher's head is spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention one of those persons being the administrator of record, right? So
Right.
yeah, no, that's I hope y'all heard that, fam. That was a lot right there. I mean, the whole thing is, but that's why she's been on 3 times. You know, it's just a lot there. Let's keep it moving. I'm looking at the time. I ain't gonna keep you here all day. But what are your thoughts about how the training occurs of an instructional coach? Like, let me set it up as I keep saying. So this dynamite teacher, who's just taking care of business year after year in the classroom, and administration has their eye on this person for this vacancy that's arising as an instructional coach. So now the vacancy is here. I want you because you are so good in the classroom. I know that will transfer or translate into you being an effective instructional coach. With that setup, talk to us about the training that is required before a teacher becomes instructional coach, particularly in the same school with folks who just a minute ago were your colleagues.
Yes. So a couple of things. One, just because a teacher taught kids well doesn't mean they'll teach teachers well.
That's
So
right.
that's number one.
Well,
Because
stay
those
with
skills don't always
stay with
transfer.
number one for a minute. Stay with number one. Um, why not?
Because their adult learning is different than student learning. And people need to understand that. And second, we are not trying to replicate ourselves. Like, we're not creating Stepford wives. But people go into that with the mindset of like, this is how I set up my classroom, and this is how you need to do it because it worked for me. And it's like, no, that's not how it happens. What we're supposed to do is, as a coach, I am bringing the best of you out. I am bringing the best of what your vision is for your classroom, because every teacher has a vision for what they want their classroom to look like, how they want it to run. And so as a coach, I am helping you to take those ideas and actually put them and implement them in the classroom. So I may share, hey, when I was in the classroom, I did this, but I also will share, well, when I was at this building, I saw this teacher do that. I give you ideas to bring your vision to life.
Yeah.
I'm not creating a Stepford wife where I am replicating myself. So that's the big piece of that puzzle. And that's how they do it differently.
So let's stay there for a little bit. So the reality is there are untrained instructional coaches for the and the very thing that you said, because I was great in the classroom teaching kindergartners, teaching second graders, teaching fifth graders, teaching sophomores, as you said so eloquently, does not necessarily translate into me being an effective leader or coach of adults. So I said leader because I could be great in the classroom as a teacher, but that doesn't necessarily translate into me being a great administrator, right?
Exactly.
So what about those folks who are in that scenario? Because they exist. They,
Mhm.
they came out of the classroom and they were now told coach up the teachers, and
Yes.
they have very little oversight. I know this because I hear about it all the time. What is your message, not to those coaches, because those coaches might not be on? What is your message to those leaders that may have who may be in that scenario?
So you have to get them training specifically on instructional coaching strategies.
Who does it?
Me. I
Oh,
do.
okay, okay. I see. I see
So
where
it's
you.
two things though. It's two things. Real talk. It's two things. And those coaches need to be trained on coaching strategies, and they need to be trained on instructional strategy. And I say this because one, I was transitioning back into the district, and I'm a K-8 licensed teacher in Indiana, right? Did a lot of my elementary, K-6 licensed teacher, did all of my work in elementary. Went to apply for a math district elementary position. Super excited about that. Got to the interview. And the lady said to me, as we were walking from the door to the elevator, she said, hey, we had a little bit of a change happen. And I was like, okay. I'm thinking maybe it's going to be a couple of less people in the interview, normally 30,000 people in the interview, right? But she was like, well, the district elementary position has been filled, and we're going to interview you for the secondary ELA coaching position. What? Like, I'm an elementary K-6 teacher. Went to the interview, but I'm already on the elevator now, so I got to go into the interview. So I go into the interview, and they interview me. But Kafele, they never asked me one question specific around pedagogy or content. You know what they asked me? Instructional strategy. Because what they wanted was they wanted to bring the elementary instructional strategy, small group instruction, gradual release responsibility, building strong lesson plans, like all of those strategies, they wanted to bring that into the secondary world. And so before I even got home, I got the job. But it wasn't because of my pedagogy or it wasn't because of my content knowledge. It was because I understood instructional strategy. Not saying that you don't need all those. You do need that, right? But you need to focus on when you're looking at a coach or looking at a teacher in your building, you want to know, do they understand instructional strategy? Because they should be able to go to kindergarten, first grade, 8th grade, high school, college, and be able to sit and observe and actually be able to say, okay, these are the strategies that we need to implement to make this lesson stronger. Okay. So that's the key piece to that. And I don't remember the question. I think that's what we were talking about.
No, actually, you nailed it. You nailed it. But I want to stay there. So you talked about instructional strategy and coaching strategy.
Yes.
Is communication skill a separate category from coaching strategy, or does it fall under that umbrella?
I think it probably falls under that umbrella, but it's definitely something that people need to understand. And in Simply Instructional Coaching, one of the questions was about communication, and I talk about the different ways in which you communicate with adults, right? Because they have their own. I say it like this, and I know it's inappropriate, but I say it because people respond to your feedback and respond to you based on their trauma, based on their experience, right? And that's kind of how it is. So say, for instance, you sent me an email and I just start arguing with somebody, right? You sent me the email and I start arguing with somebody. So immediately I'm reading your email and I feel attacked, and it wasn't meant to be that way. And so we have to look at how we're writing emails. We have to look at how we approach people, how we sit next to a teacher in our meeting, right? So as we sit next to the teacher in our meeting, how are we, what is our body language? Like, all of those things are things that, yes, that communication part, they need to understand, because we do it with students, but we do it differently with students. Because I know sometimes I could give that old school mama from the choir stand look, and those kids know exactly what to do, right? But you can't do that with another adult, because that's a fighting look for them. Like, right, they ready to throw hands with you, right? So that's a different perspective. And so we have to learn how to do that communication, how to write it, how to, talk with people. So yes, I don't know if it's a coaching strategy, but it is a foundational work.
Yeah. What about going back to Gwendolyn Dixon now? Pushback. So you were one of my colleagues down the hall, and we used to chop it up about whatever over the years. And now all of a sudden, you're in my classroom. All of a sudden, we're engaging in conversation around instruction. And I don't want to talk to you on that level, that you're my coach now. I don't even feel that you're that much more effective than I am, right? All that kind of stuff now that you're in this new role. So therefore, I'm concerned, and I'm going to administration to say, I don't need this, blah blah blah, right? What are your thoughts about that pushback, which is very real, as you know?
Yep. So the main thing is that the principal has to create a culture of coaching. And so then what I look at, I go into Dr. Muhammad's work a lot, where I talk about his Transforming School Culture book. And I think I talked about this the last time we were together, but we identified those 4 types of educators in that building. We want to know who our believers, who our survivors, who our fundamentalists are, who our newbies are, our tweeners, right? And so we kind of put them on a list in that boundary meeting. Remember that meeting that the principal and coach like created. So we know who's going to give us pushback and we know who's not. At the beginning of the year, I always have my principal and my coach to do like a setting of what this coaching program is, talk about our coaching program, all of that scenario, right? And in that, we are going to speak to those 4 types of educators. We're going to speak to their fears already. We're going to name them and put them out on the table, right? So if a coach if a teacher, so what you want to do in that case is say, yes, you know what? Miss Turner, she has worked with us for 20 years in this building, and she is super hyped to support you guys. And she's the best person for this position because she knows what it is that we have been doing all this time. And she knows that she can help us to get better. You already have relationships with her, and the relationship may change a little bit, but the relationship stays the same as all she is as a coach is her external eyes and ears, giving a different perspective on the reality. Yeah. Right? That's it. So it doesn't become what I say, it doesn't become about feelings and emotions. And so the principal has to state that. When you put it on the table, is nothing else you can say. Right? You put it on the table, and now you've created your own narrative. You know, Principal Kafele, you could get up in front of someone like when you were a principal and say X, Y, and Z, but not give the why behind the what. And then your staff start to create the why for you.
Yeah.
But if you put it on the table and you mention it, then there's nothing else they could say. Right? And so we want to call it out early. So to get past pushback, you have to call it out early. This is what we're doing. We're creating a culture of coaching. Number 2, Miss Turner is coming in as the coach. She may not know everything. None of us do. We're all getting better. But she is just here as your external eyes and ears to give you a different perspective on all of this.
Yeah.
Right? So you put it out there.
I wanted to say real quick, I hope I didn't interrupt your thought. I thought you had brought it to a close.
No, it's cool.
Yeah, let me say to Jamila Rice. Jamila, and it might be Jamila, appreciate your comment here. I definitely have to rewatch and order in the books today. Thank you so much for this. It was an excellent follow-up to the recent instructional strategy and coaching training I just participated in with West Ed. Now, Jamila Rice, let me just let you know this in case you tuned in late. Nicole was also on with me for week 182 and week 212, right? So you go to the AP New Principals Academy YouTube channel, and you got 4 more hours of us, right? We did two 2-hour sessions. This is part 3. Right. So go to the YouTube channel, session number 182, 2 and 212. All of them are not numbered, but you'll see her in the thumbnail, and check those out when you can. But I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Let's keep going. Let me see where I am here. Yeah. The instructional coach. Let me clear my screen here. So here I am in this position. Right, whether it be as a veteran or be as a neophyte. But how does the instructional coach go about positioning themselves as credible and valuable to the teachers that they coach?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, I have the principal and the coach do the intro meeting, talk about what our coaching plan is. The principal starts the presentation off. The principal talks about why we're doing it, the why behind the what, right? And so what they are doing is talking about the data, what it is, why coaching, some research about why coaching works and all of that. And then they speak to whatever the trauma is that the teachers could possibly have, those 4 different types of educators. You're going to speak to them, right? So the principal is going to do that. And so that's the why we're doing it. And then the coach then talks about the what they're doing it. So they talk about and the what and the how. So what is our coaching program, and then how we are going to implement it, and then talk about a little bit of their experience. So like when I had to go into the high school and I was a K-6 teacher, could you imagine what those teachers were feeling? And you know what I said? I put it on the table. I said, hey, I am super excited to be here. I know nothing about the difference between freshman English and junior English. I don't know, y'all. Y'all got to teach me some of that. But what I do know is instructional strategy. And here are some of the strategies that we are going to work together on, you know, because this is a part of our school improvement plan. This is a part of how we're going to get to our goal. And let's work together to do this. I am one piece of the puzzle. I'm not the specialist or the guru I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to support you in how we do this. And I'm one piece of the bigger puzzle. And it's the teacher and it's me. And we lockstep together and we implement together. So we all own this. So that's how we get away from, well, where's my credibility? I mean, my credibility is I was teaching. I was teaching just like you were. And if I was a horrible teacher and I became a coach, guess what? I can tell you about all the things that didn't work. Right? So my whole goal is just to be an external eyes and ears of things that you're implementing.
Wow, man, you teaching today. Like hey, Yolanda said it best. This is a straight up master class.
Thank you.
That's what it is. That's what it is. That's why you come on here so much. You know we're gonna schedule number 4 soon, and because it's just you endless content. You know, it's yeah, it's like you ain't even thinking, like trying to process the question. Just, bam, master class. Let's go. So with that question, right? And let me read it again. How does an instructional coach position oneself as credible and valuable in the eyes of a teacher? Here's my follow-up question to that. What might be the role of administration in creating an environment where there's a higher probability that this instructional coach is seen as credible and valuable?
Yep, that goes all back to that intro meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It also goes back to connecting when I do my walkthroughs, right? Those required mandated walkthroughs, that I'm now connecting my instructional coach in that work. And so that is how I then support to make sure that people understand what it is that we're supposed to be doing and that work.
Now, earlier, you mentioned something that really caught my attention, which I'm actually writing here. I don't need to write it because I'm on the question now. But I talk every day about this thing called school culture, which is macro. And then this smaller thing called a culture of instructional leadership. So somewhere along the way, within the last 10 minutes, you said a culture of instructional coaching, right?
Yeah.
And my mind said, bam, there it is, right? So I'm usually talking to leaders. So I'm talking about this culture of instructional leadership from their vantage point as being these instructional leaders / coaches of the teachers that they evaluate, that they supervise. Talk to us about what you meant by a culture of instructional coaching.
Yeah. So a culture of coaching just means that everyone gets coached. We're not coached based on whether or not I'm sinking or I'm not doing well or I'm a new teacher or any of that. We are just in this piece. We're knowing and saying everyone in this building gets coached because everyone can get better, period. That's the culture of coaching. So it's not, we have a connotation right now that coaching is a very negative connotation right now, right? Yeah. Like if the principal can't know that you coaching me, and now I'm finna go on a PIP plan, and now all of this, and I just want to close my door and let me teach, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, what if we did that with doctors? Right? Like they're consistently going to learn about the new medicines or learn about the new processes or not about any of that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that is a hot mess. We need to build a culture where coaching is what we do, period. And that coaching is a system that we put in place for improvement. It's not personal. So we have to take away that it's personal. You know what I'm saying? From that scenario, we have to put it as coaching what you do. It's just like when you hire a new teacher and the new teacher says, can you give me my schedule? And when do we have PLC? PLC is on Thursday at 2:00. Do you question that? Teachers don't question it. Well, why I gotta go to PLC on 2 o'clock?
Yeah,
They never
yeah,
question that. But you know, we say, hey, how you doing? Welcome to our school. We coach, and Nicole is our coach, our principal coaches. This is what we do. This is who we are. We're all in here to get better because what? Going back to that school improvement plan, this is our goal.
yeah.
And the only way we're going to get that is if everybody works together and we coach each other up. And let me say this too, Principal Kafele, coaches can be one layer, but you can have peer coaching as well. Coaching should not always depend on me as Nicole. There should be a system. I teach this in my PDs, like there should be a system of coaching that we are creating, that if on Wednesday, I said this, anybody has been to any of my workshops, they know this. When I say on Wednesday, I decide to drive home and I go by the gas station to give me a quick pick and I win on Wednesday, you best believe I'm not coming to work on Thursday. But the work must continue, right? And so I need to say, coaches, teachers should be coaching each other. I should then be coaching. The principal should be coaching. Everyone should be coaching each other on how to get better. If I go into I'm a classroom teacher, and the teacher across the hall from me has like better management or something like that, I should be able to go into her classroom and get ideas. Not that I'm gonna implement it the exact way that she does, but I'm gonna be able to look at look at what she has, and it should be able to trigger something for me to be able to implement something in my classroom. So that is how we work.
Strong stuff. Strong stuff. You know, I want to stay on that whole culture of culture of coaching for a minute. You good on time?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah, fam, y'all good on time? It looks with the numbers, it looks like it. I don't know if we on YouTube or not. I mean, I know we're there, but I don't know if anybody.
Oh, we on YouTube because I'm getting text messages.
Oh, okay, good. So because I ain't saying no YouTube show up in the comments. But anyway, oftentimes when I'm talking, not oftentimes, all the time, when I'm talking to leaders, Nicole, and I'm talking about this culture of instructional leadership, I'm saying to the point that it culminates, and I'm not saying that culture of instructional coaching. I'm talking leadership right now, and I'm saying that this culture of instructional leadership that culminates into instructional leadership being an inherent part of our brand as a school. Like this is who we are, right? Not to force it. That it organically has become this, that a teacher understands that this is not an intrusion. This is not punitive. This is not a file. This is not an evaluation. This is what it is. It's coaching. And now it's become a part of the culture. And as a teacher, I accept it. I embrace it because it's who we are. It's part of our brand identity. I want you to talk to me about that as it relates to your role relative to the instructional coaches.
So break that down again. Break that question down. So my position as like how I support coaches.
No, let me give you the shorter version. So it's a culture of instructional coaching so that ultimately it's embraced by a staff.
Oh yeah.
As an identity. This is who we are as XYZ school. This is what we do. This is who we are.
Yep. So we start with, I wrote a framework called the Simple Blueprint, and SIMPLE. And so that simple blueprint is how we build that culture of coaching. In the first 1 or 2 years, it's going to be rough because you are untraining people. You're changing their behaviors. So there's going to be some resistance. And what it is kind of like you have to continue to say, you have to sound like a broken record. This is what we do. We're doing it. Why? We're doing it. Why? We're doing it. Why? We're doing it. Why? So it's just a continuation of that. And then it just becomes that. And when coaches, when principals start to, when teachers start to have that positive feedback loop, right? They start seeing gains. They start seeing the value of coaching. Then it makes it 10 times stronger. Now they're like, where's Nicole at? Or where is this person at? You know, now they're talking about, they expect it. So the first year, yeah, I work with schools, and the first thing is we look at the simple blueprint and we break down each one of those areas. Like, we set a vision for coaching. We talk about how we have an instructional, like what our focus is, what our school improvement plan is. We're going to map out how we support teachers, right? So we build that blueprint and then we implement it. That's the biggest problem. So the biggest problem is the knowing doing gap, right? It's the, I know that we should be doing something. I know I have to create a culture, but I need to do it. And the blueprint, the simple blueprint, helps them to be able to create that plan. And then you just have to be repetitive. This is why we're doing it. 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 And then it becomes, we just do it.
Wow. Wow. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. I got one more, and then we go to your talking points. You probably addressed all of them already, but let me ask you this one more. How does an instructional coach go about establishing trust with that teacher, to the extent that the teacher does not view you as an intrusion, and view you as a spy, view you as someone that's going back reporting everything to administration, and thereby I don't really trust you in disclosing some things that I typically would want to disclose because it's necessary in the conversation toward my growth? How do we get past that barrier so that I can trust that? I know you have to talk to the principal, don't get me wrong, but I can feel that I can talk to you and it's not going to hurt me over the long haul.
Well, first, in that instance, there's not a culture of coaching.
Right.
Because if anyone feels like, oh, you gonna tell on me to the principal and I'm gonna be, it's gonna be a negative thing, or you know what I'm saying, from that part, like, then we don't have a culture of coaching. So culture of coaching needs to be established. And the teacher clearly doesn't understand the purpose of coaching. So you have to reiterate that as to what the purpose is, why I'm here, all of that. And third, we build trust with teachers through the work. So there are a lot of coaching models out there that are like, oh, hey, yeah, you just stop by. You have to build this relationship before you can start coaching. I worked in a school where, baby, we needed to start. I didn't have 6 months to be like, your hair is cute. You know, like, I didn't have time to build that, oh, you know, and then let me in. It was, we're going to build a sprint together. We're going to set a goal. Let's build the sprint. And together you're going to build the work with me. People build trust. Just think about if you were dating, right? I know it's been forever for you.
Forever.
But think about this. Think about people who date, right? They meet someone, you talk to them. They may say, oh, okay, you cute, right? You said it on the first time. Oh, okay. You know, woo, woo, woo. Now, you set up this, we go meet up. We go to Applebee's for happy hour, right? They say, we're going to be there at 6 o'clock. They get there at 5:50. You're building trust with them because they're following through on their word, right? But if they get there at 6:30, you immediately like, oh, no, dude, you somebody I can't even mess with, right? Because you are not following through, and you're not following through on your word. And so we have to build we build our trust through the work. We don't have time to sit around and wait, because I need change to happen in the classroom. Because what you have to realize, every minute that the teacher is not teaching and that there's weak instruction, we're losing instructional minutes with our students. And guess what? This is not just our novice teachers, or it's not just our teacher who is we could hear them down the hall. This is even our stronger teachers. We have to look if they are implementing strategies the correct way, or implementing them in different layers to actually get transfer to learning. And so that's the biggest piece of that. You just build through the work. You build the trust through actually doing the work with teachers.
Love it, love it, love it. And by the way, fam, if you meet that person that caught your attention, don't tell them you're going to be at Applebee's at 6 o'clock and you show up at 6:30. You may have killed the potential of that relationship.
This is true. This is true.
All right, y'all, let me stop acting up. Let me go to these 3 talking points right quick. Let me get you on the screen. And you may have addressed all of this. I noticed the three dots at the end because I couldn't, they only give you 200 characters. I got to read the rest. Let me read these to the fam. We spend a lot of time measuring what instructional coaches do and how they spend their time, but we are still struggling to measure whether coaching is making an impact on teacher practice and student learning. We haven't addressed that. So go ahead. The floor is yours. What are you saying to us?
So I think we did talk about it a little bit, but
Little
this is what happens. We have teachers documenting their time. I'm sorry, we have coaches documenting their time and how many coaching cycles they did. So here's the thing. I worked with a couple of districts and they were like, oh, our superintendents require us to do 12 coaching cycles a quarter. And I'm like, okay, but what does that mean? Like, you're doing 12 coaching cycles, but are they aligned to anything? Yeah. Or are we just compliant? Because what they're doing is it's like, okay, I got to meet with a teacher. Yeah. And then I'm going to walk into the classroom. I'm going to say, okay, what do you want to work on? And then the teacher's like, oh, well, I want to work on this. And then I'm looking like, is this the classroom that I was in? Because what you saying what you want to work on has nothing to do with what's really happening in the classroom, right? So now we battling, going back and forth. We have no documentation of, we have nothing to follow, no plan or anything like that. But I have to do my compliance because I have to do 12 coaching cycles. So I must be like, okay, teacher, whatever you want to work on, we're going to work on. We're going to try it because every coaching cycle is built on an improvement cycle, right? It doesn't matter what coaching cycle you utilize out there. It's all on the improvement cycle. So you're going to meet with the teacher, set a goal. You're going to observe. They're going to implement. You're going to observe. And then you're going to do a whole 45-minute feedback meeting or whatever. And then that's it. And guess what? I'm going to check that off my list. And then I'm going to go move to the next teacher.
Yeah.
So we are measuring the work of coaches, like their time, but we're not measuring their impact, right? And so that goes back to us utilizing that impact scorecard at that weekly meeting every single week so that we can actually we can actually utilize coaching to adjust what's happening in the building and look forward towards our actual our work and how we're making any changes.
That's powerful, and we got to look at this what I just put on the screen. We can't pretend that this is not there. True story. Lysandra Bracken said, I began my new school 2 years ago. I'm only reading it because she made it public, or else I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. So naturally, I had tons of questions. My questions were noted as deficits on my evaluation. Not assumptions. I specifically asked the principal.
Yeah, I would have asked too.
Yeah.
But so many principals do that. Like I don't understand. It's like, what, I'm supposed to have deficits.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to not. What teacher? There are people that's been teaching for 40 years and they still have deficits. I've been a coach for multiple years. I go and speak to everyone. If I go into the classroom for the 26, 27 school year, you best believe I'm going to have some deficits, right? And I know what to do. I've seen it and told people what to do. Yeah. But me implementing it doesn't mean that I don't need support. I don't need coaching. Right? I'm supposed to have deficits. I'm supposed to grow. There is no perfect nothing. Right? And so you want people to grow. You want to feel like that, because if people grow and they're in that building, they're going to want to stay. You know why? Because they feel like they're growing.
That's right. Wow, Lysandra, I hope the situation has gotten better, because I know that was 2 years ago. That's a heavy duty one. That's why I wanted to share it. Let's go. We got two more. I fit the whole one on this one. Teachers discuss implementing high impact instructional strategies, but many still struggle to know when, why, and how to implement those strategies in the classroom. Anything to add to that?
Yes. So we talk a lot about let's take Turn and Talk. Everyone knows about Turn and Talk, right? Mm-hmm. You know that from kindergarten all the way to high school and college. Mm-hmm. Turn and Talk is a good strategy. But what happens is that a teacher will say, my building, Turn and Talk is one of the strategies that's a part of our school improvement plan. We identified that everyone should do. All right. So now teacher is going in, principal and coach is going in, they're doing their walkthroughs, observations, whatever. And teachers are doing Turn and Talk. But you know what they did? They said, hey, so do this and now talk to your neighbor about it. How is that a strong implementation of that strategy? It's not. But if I'm looking just for compliance, they did it, right? But implementing the turn and talk needs to be very, very structured. It needs to have a question. The students need to be able to talk about and discuss. It's a high cognitive, so it's on the higher blooms, right? Part of that. Teachers need to understand the cognitive part of the strategy that they're using. Like, they know, hey, here are high impact strategies, and then they implement them at a low impact.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do now is utilize what I built a hub. It's called the Simple Strategy Hub. And inside of that hub, I took 80 high impact strategies and I built instructional strategy cards for every single one of those hubs, plus the coaching strategies, plus strategy foundation. So I went and dig deep. I almost felt like I was writing my dissertation when I did heavy research on all of those. And you take those strategy cards and it breaks down the who, what, when, where, why, how we implement, what it looks like, what it sounds like. So that now, as a coach or an administrator, I'm working with this teacher and I'm like, okay, you're working and you're doing turn and talk, but it looks like this at different cognitive levels, because it should, it could be recall, right? It could go all the way up. So it's just, you can use turn and talk the strategy, but for it to be higher impact, you need to look at the cognitive level of it. And so that is one thing that I want principals to understand, leaders, coaches to understand, that yes, we're choosing high impact strategies on our school improvement plan. We want to implement them, but it's the level and the layer in which they are implementing them is what's going to make the change. So if teachers don't understand that, then you won't have a high impact.
Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. You all taking notes out there? It's so much. It's a lot to process. Those of you who have been with us from the beginning, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm appreciative of those who said, I'm going to have to rewatch this and see it again, just to process all the invaluable information that Nicole is sharing. We got one more. I got to read the last 3 words of it off my page, but it says, principals, APs, coaches, and teacher leaders must move beyond compliance walkthroughs and become more strategic about helping teachers build a toolkit of instructional strategies they can use with any curriculum.
Yes. So here is the key thing to this. A lot of time, I think about when we learn how to drive, right? We learn how to drive a vehicle, and we know that we stop at red, we cautious at yellow, and we go on green, right? Yeah. When we learn how to drive, that's the basics. That's the foundation. Now, you can go to any country in this entire world, and you're going to do what? Stop on red, cautious at yellow, and go on green, because that's the basic foundations, right? Okay. What we have done is that we have taken the curriculum and tried to make the curriculum the driver. So if I know how to drive, I can drive any car. So like my very first car was a Ford Focus. I could drive a Ford Focus. I can go get in a Benz. I can go get in a Maserati. I can go get in a big old truck. I could get the Wagoneer. It doesn't matter because I know how to drive. Mm-hmm. So what we need to do is thinking about the curriculum as the vehicle, right? If I know how to drive, which means I know instructional strategy. If I know how to teach, I know strong instructional strategy, right? That means that I can pick up any curriculum book and I can teach, because curriculums change, and curriculums are basically just a scope and sequence. And it's just using different stories or using different problems in which you want to solve and all that kind of stuff. Like, the curriculum changes. But if we build a strong instructional strategy toolkit, it doesn't matter what vehicle we get in, what curriculum we pick up, we're able to drive and we're able to teach. And so we have to stop. So many times what instructional coaches are telling me, like, well, we got a new curriculum. I'm like, great, you got a new curriculum, but are you teaching the teacher the actual strategy that the curriculum is having them to use? Because if they lose the curriculum, then what? They just lose the sequence. They use the story. So instead of this story, we're using this story, but the strategy still has to be the same. And so that is the key piece. That's what I say to all of my principals, APs, coaches, teacher leaders, whoever. Start to build instructional strategy along with pedagogy. That is what is going to make strong teachers, not mastering a curriculum. Because as we can see, right? Curriculum changes and they buy curriculum every 3 to 5 years because that is what the whole market is about. That's how they make their money. Because the first thing is, girl, we got that curriculum for 20 years ago. You ain't never heard nobody say that. Because they keep buying them every 3 years. We're switching it out. So stop teaching teachers the curriculum and start teaching teachers instructional strategies and build their toolkit like a brick and not like a drywall.
Whew. Like a brick and not a drywall. That's a good note to end this song on, man. That thunder is so strong, it's frightening.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, this is a little different. This is the climate change storm, right? So but let me be the first to thank you. This was just powerful, just so, and it's just a little small scratching of the surface of what you bring to the table. So before we get to how they can bring you in, let me first say to the fam out there, if today's session resonated with you, if it was good to you, if it was useful, if you could incorporate it into your work, right? Or if it was just plain out good listening, give us your favorite emojis. That's how we applaud our guests. That's what we do. So give us your favorite emojis while I got mine sitting here in my lap here. My Louisville Slugger. Bam, you hit it out the park. Every time you came to the plate. Ooh, a lot of home runs were hit today. Awesome. A lot of grand slams, bases loaded. So I appreciate you. Keep them coming, y'all. Keep them coming. Keep those emojis coming. If today was worth your while, even if you didn't see the whole thing, whatever you saw, this is the way we applaud and acknowledge our guests each Saturday morning over the past 325 Saturdays. And Nicole, how do the folks bring you out so that you can give them more than just 2 hours? How do they bring you out so that you can spend a whole year consulting?
So you can email me at hello@simplycoaching.co. So it's not .com, it's simplycoaching.co. You can send an email and just let me know, hey, Nicole, would love to jump on a call with you. And then I'll be able to schedule some time. I do have 2 openings this school year. So if anyone wants to, bring me in or talk with me, I have 2 openings. Also, I do want to say this because a lot of principals would have 1 coach in their building. And so it could be expensive, right? To bring one person in, to bring me in for 1 person or 2 people or something like that. So if you are in an area, we could do something where there's multiple coaches from different districts, because sometimes it's like 1 coach in a district, right? Or 1 coach there. I do virtual coaching. You could do that piece. Also, just send me an email. We can work it out. Budgets are not a problem. We adjust through that because I know what's understanding what the climate is. So we definitely work through that process and just make it a change. So it's simplycoaching.co, Gwendolyn. Simplycoaching.co. So just send an email to hello@simplycoaching.co. The website is being updated in 2 weeks. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about now is not on there yet, but it will be. If you are looking for the Simple Strategy book, so this book here, you can purchase the download and just print it out at your building and put it in a binder. It is just $20, I believe. And it is at shop.simplycoaching.co. So shop, shop.simplycoaching.co. But if you want to bring me in your building, I only have 2 spots for 2 districts. I only do 8 districts a year. I have 6 filled now. I'm only at 1 person in capacity. So there we go.
Wow. So you telling me something I don't know. So you doing all this long-term work. So are you available to go in, for them drive-bys that people like me do? That one day of not so much coaching, but it could be, but more so presenting.
Yes. So if you, yes, I do keynote speaking. I do speeches with teachers. I talk about instructional strategy, and I also do embedded coaching. So that's another thing. So like if you do not have an instructional coach, but you have some teacher leaders, I come in and I actually coach the teachers, and the teacher leaders can see and watch me do that work. So I do those types of things. But when we talk about partnerships and we're talking about like, Nicole, I'm ready to turn my school around, I'm ready to make some things happen, then there we go. That's the work that I love to do. And I only do 8 districts a year
Wow.
with that.
So let me just for the audience, and so we can be clear with them. So when you say district, so you're working with multiple schools when you have that kind of contract. Is that correct?
Yes, mostly I work with when they have multiple instructional coaches. So it has to be, normally it's at the district level. There have been some schools where it's like 3 coaches in the school. So then I work with them all year. So yes, that works for me as well.
Yeah. So there's the website, folks. Simplycoaching.co. And while you're at it, even though she's promoting the new book, I'll also plug the previous book, right? Simply Coaching, Simply Instructional Coaching, right? So you can go to Amazon right now or go to the website and get yourself a copy of this as well. Hey, Nicole, I'm gonna close out. Stay on when I go off, so we can holler real quick. But
Perfect.
but before you go, before I close, just great stuff. Appreciate you. We'll schedule session number 4. And because there's so much to talk about here. But to the fam out there, appreciate you being here for week number 325. But now we move on to the next one, so we get through the week, and then let's meet up again next Saturday at 11 o'clock, and I'll have Dr. Rachel Edoeket, her newest book, Relational Intelligence. You know her because she's part of the fam, so you know her. And she'll be here. I think this will be her 3rd as well, and might be the 4th, but I think it's the 3rd. But that'll be next Saturday, number 326. But before that, Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock, Facebook Live and YouTube at Sean Hurt, followed by Create and Educate, 10:30. Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor. Let me clear my screen there. And followed by the AP and New Principals Academy with yours truly. And again, next week with Dr. Rachel Edoeket. And then Sunday, PGP podcast with my brother, Principal Josh Tovar, and Dr. Madi Moreno. That's at 6 o'clock Eastern time. 6 o'clock Eastern. Again, if you don't have your 2 copies of the books that coincide with the Academy, my other books, they're good compliments, but these are the 2 I really want you to have. Even if you're a principal, I still want you to have the Assistant Principal 50, along with What is My Value instructionally to the teachers I supervise. And always remember that although I call this the AP and New Principals Academy, that's just the brand we created years ago. We are for veteran principals too. We're for teachers. We're for supervisors at central office, directors, assistant superintendents, and commissioners of education, right? It's just that I put a particular spotlight on the AP and new principal, which the aspiring administrator is implied. But make no mistake about it, we're talking content for a veteran principal, right? We're talking content for a veteran superintendent that has principals and APs under their watch. So I don't ever want that to get lost, right? Again, we'll be going on Zoom in September, 2nd hour, first Saturdays. Go to my AP New Principals Academy Facebook page and simply inbox me saying I'm in or I'm down, or you can say them both. I'm in and I'm down, right? And I'm down is a slang in case I got somebody on here that doesn't know slang and thinks, but I'm not down, I'm up, right? So either one, and then leave me your personal email address so that at the end of August I can send you the link, and then we can switch over to Zoom and we can discuss whatever was discussed in hour 1 and whatever you want to talk about that's pertinent to your work. Enough said there. Subscribe to the AP New Principals Academy. Hit the subscribe button. Be part of that 25,700 subscribers. And hit the notification bell so that you're always informed when I go live. Those of you, I think everybody watched from Facebook today, a few LinkedIn, because you're telling me the comments were turned off on YouTube today. Maybe I accidentally hit that button. I'll find out in about 5 minutes, right? So, but you can watch all 325 sessions on YouTube, right? If you've missed any of them. And then finally, visit my website, principalkafele.com, and make sure you're taking care of your diet, your exercise, and your virus precautions. Had a young man last night on the plane, felt like he could cough without covering his mouth. So he watched me put that mask on. I was sending him a message, right? So make sure that you are taking whatever precautions. So what is my message there? I don't travel without masks. I got 10 of them in my bag, right? All right, so if you're going to sit there and you're going to be that bold and brazen that you're going to cough and not even cover your mouth, I'm going to put the mask with you watching me put it on, or at least you can see me out the side of your eye knowing I'm not happy with what you just did, right? So other than that, y'all have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. How we do it? Peace. Flip it. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist all the way back. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! That's what that thunder sounds like outside, y'all. Bam, bam, and bam. I will see you next Saturday.